comes up for the main event. Then we watched NWA World Championship Wrestling, April 12th, 1986. Show opened with a clip of the Horsemen jumping Ron Garvin and laying him out.
These Horsemen just keep fucking Ronnie Garvin.
They do.
It seems like they're building up for something.
Oh, dude, the Garvin build is nothing compared to some other stuff.
What are you talking about? We're working on a 3-year build right here.
I feel like...
Are we working on... Or is your build to the end of the company?
It might be.
Because that is a long-term build.
That is a long-term build. They announced David Crockett was not there.
Oh, my
Actually,
God.
This show opened with maybe... It wasn't 20 minutes, but there was a lot of talking in the opening this show. They announced David Crockett is not there. Tony Schiavone starts talking about the Russians, the six-man champions. He's going on and on about getting them to defend the title. And says tonight those titles will finally be on the line. Against the team, I'm thinking, Magnum and the Road Warriors or something. No. Nelson Royal, the Italian Stallion, and as I wrote here at the time, somebody else. It doesn't matter.
Well, you know, Vinny, on a show where you're going to give the fans Ric Flair versus Ricky Morton.
Well, that's true.
Not every match is going to be a main event.
But at the time, this was. Then Dusty comes out and cuts a promo. Baby Doll's the hottest woman in wrestling. I'm the biggest draw in the sport. Then
Let's compare our notes here. Let's compare what you wrote Dusty is saying, and then I'll write what I thought that he said.
Okay, what I said...
It was a rambling Dusty Rhodes.
That's what I got out of it. Exactly what I wrote. He cut a promo running down the Horseman, claimed Baby Doll was the hottest woman in wrestling, and that he was the biggest draw in the sport.
Okay, I got Dusty rambles about this and that and says nobody is hotter than Baby Doll. Something about Raging Bull and how this show is live and in person, and he is a tower of power.
Yeah, so you got more details?
That's what I got.
went more of a big picture view.
I thought that was a big picture view when I wrote it.
I guess. So he leaves, and Tony starts talking about the Russians more.
I was so sad.
On and on about Nikita.
David Crockett was not here tonight. I was sad at the beginning of the show when he wasn't there. I was really sad later in the show when he wasn't there.
Yeah, I hadn't thought of that.
Yeah.
Oh, you're right.
Can you imagine David Crockett in that Ricky Morton, Ric Flair match?
He'd have lit on fire.
We played on this show the audio of when Ricky Morton slapped Ric Flair and they got in the big brawl and they got in the ring and all that happened was Ricky Morton sent him packing.
Yeah.
Imagine if David Crockett was there and Ricky Morton was bouncing him around like a pinball for 25 minutes, even though it wasn't 25 minutes. Sure, it goddamn seemed like it. I don't think he could have survived it.
No.
I think that's why he had to leave.
For his own safety.
I think he took himself off the show. He just thought, there's no way my heart can take Ric Flair versus Ricky Morton here on this show. I'm going to go to Baltimore or wherever he went.
So the opening match was George South and Tony Zane against the team of Raging Bull and, I'm going to try to pronounce this man's name the way it was spelled on the graphic, Hector Guerrero.
Guerrero?
There's several extra R's in there.
Wow.
Yeah.
Hector looked exactly like Eddie Guerrero.
He
He
did.
looked exactly like my father in the 70s.
Yes. They had appalling generic mariachi music. Once the match started, these dudes were working.
Oh, the bull was raging.
The bull was raging. Hector was on fire. The jobbers were forced to keep up with them. And the only time it ever slowed down at all was when Raging Bull, out of mercy, would allow them to make a tag and slow things down. And then go right back into fire mode. So the finish, Bull hits a back elbow. He tags out, and then he squats down on the apron. And Hector stands on his shoulders. Bull squats him up, and Hector hits a huge diving flying crossbody for the win. That finish ruled. That was a very fun TV squash match.
During the match, they announced two big things. Number one, the Jim Crockett Senior Memorial Cup is next week, and $1 million is on the line. Also, Shaska Whatley is in the building tonight, along with the ball bearing.
It's always important.
What more could I ask for than number one, Paul Jones, the ball bearing, and now Shaska Whatley? Which, by the way, ended up being the main event.
It did.
Because what else? What else could be the main event on this show? Nothing.
No. So Hector and Bull immediately cut a promo. They were both still huffing and puffing. The gimmick both guys have was to speak in English for a while and then speak in Spanish. And this did not get over in Atlanta. It may have gotten over in San Antonio, which they referenced several times.
Yeah, but you know what? They didn't. They were tolerant.
They were tolerant.
It wasn't like they were screaming, "Speak English."
No, they weren't booing or...
They weren't throwing American flags.
There were no flag waving, no USA chants, no racial slurs. Those would come later. Hector thanked the beautiful people of this great land for accepting him, which was a good way to start. And he spoke in Spanish for a while. Bull did the same gimmick, and he noted that when he spoke in Spanish, it was not getting over, and finally he spoke in English again and said, "Hey, I'm a veteran for this country." And everyone said, "Yeah!" So that worked.
The Latin Connection is what they're being called.
Latin Connection.
Felt like I was watching Galavision.
It was a great team, actually.
Yeah.
In hindsight, I'd be fine with Raging Bull and Hector Guerrero every week.
I'd be happy with them today.
Yeah. Yes.
Better than The Miz and Zack Ryder.
Yes.
Or the Hype Bros.
God, yes. Black Bart versus Gene Ligon.
Bart
Ligon?
is the Mid-Atlantic champion.
I've given up even keeping track of who has what belt anymore.
He is the champion of the entire Mid-Atlantic area.
The Carolinas, Virginia, Georgia, I guess.
And even Tony made some sort of comment about hard to get used to Black Bart with a championship belt around his waist or something like that. And then they announced the former champion, Sam Houston, is going to be wrestling later against Arn Anderson.
Yeah.
I can't wait.
So this is short. Gene Ligon can sell better than almost anyone on this roster or any other. Bart worked his arm over for a minute or two with arm wringers, and then when he made his comeback, Gene was throwing punches with his right arm while his left arm hung limp at his side. Didn't work. Bart cut him off, hit a body slam, and the middle rope leg drop for the win.
Black Bart, the original Hanson.
The prototype Hanson.
Sure.
The current Hanson is vastly improved. But I see where you're going.
Absolutely. Well, the top rope leg drop.
Yeah.
They both had that big move.
Well, there's a visual similarity, too.
Yeah, basically.
Hanson is a greatly improved Black Bart. Greatly improved. Tully Blanchard did a promo.
Tully is so great. Mm-hmm. I went to WrestleCon and Tully was there, and I didn't want to just go up to everybody and just talk to everybody. I just looked at him.
Well, that's not creepy.
I didn't even go say hi or anything. I didn't even introduce myself or nothing. I didn't say hi to anybody there except Lance, and I tried to find Missy.
Yeah. So Tully was great here. He said...
My point is, I regret that.
I see.
I would have liked to have gone up to him and said, Tully, you were so fucking great. I know you're a man of the Lord now, but you were fucking great. You know that?
He'd probably say, fucking A right I was. So, he explained, Ron Garvin, gotta admire his toughness. He's got an injured hand. Might be broken, might not be. But I tell you what, either way, in wrestling, you are not allowed to tape up your fist and turn it into a weapon.
Finally. Somebody brings this up.
Yes.
He even said, it's like he's listening to our show. He goes, a closed fist is illegal.
Yes.
Why is this guy allowed to do this move? And Tony had no answer.
No.
I have no answer.
He said, look.
The NWA had no answer.
Garvin, if your wrist is broken, then go get a cast put on it. You can start wrestling with a cast on and support your family. Or families. Then he moved on.
That was a good one.
Oh, so awesome. Otherwise, leave that hand untaped so you can wrestle fair and square. He said, you're like Dusty. Dusty had a foot injury and got an illegal boot. I won't be surprised to see you in the ring with an illegal glove someday. And it doesn't matter, because for all you try and pull, Ric Flair and myself and Arn Anderson, we're champions. You and Dusty, you got nothing. Can't argue with that.
Tully was so awesome.
Can't argue with that.
Just sitting there with his sunglasses. He's all blinged out. He's got his belt. Like, this is the man.
He was a pro. Ivan Koloff and Nikita Koloff and Baron Von Raschke versus Italian Stallion and Nelson Royal and Denny Brown.
For the World Six-Man title.
World Six-Man titles.
Vinny, I don't give a shit what you think about the Young Bucks and Kenny Omega and Baron Von Raschke and anybody else. If you don't admit that this match was fucking great, you're fired.
Oh, no, I'm right there with you.
This match was great.
I thought this was going to be a joke of a match. And instead, the Russians wrestled this like constantly, like these men were great wrestlers and a threat to their championships.
Let me talk about all that was great about this match. Then you may proceed. First off, the heat was great because it is man versus Russian, which in 1986 is just instant heat. Nelson Royal, at one point, goes to give the hot tag to the Italian Stallion, gives him the lightest hot tag you ever saw.
Oh, yes.
I was like, can I have a match with Nelson Royal? This man's great. They went back and forth, all action, quick tags. They never stopped. Came across like 6 dudes fighting for supremacy.
Frantically.
Not like a patterned... Like, you see these tag matches today are these 6-mans, and we've seen the 6-man on Raw a million times. You know exactly how it works. You get the heat on the babyface forever. He makes a hot tag. You get the heat on that guy forever. He gets the second hot tag. That guy runs wild. You do all the near falls. Listen, I'm not even complaining. I think these 6-mans nowadays are awesome. But this was totally different, and it was great. Tag, 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 tag. Finally, Stallion runs wild, and the finish is, as Stallion is running wild...
May I interrupt you here? One of the great things about this match...
This better be a good interruption.
While it's all back and forth, the one thing they did was they protected Nikita. He was not in the match very much. As they explained, it was his first TV match in months. He was not in the match very much. When he was in, he was almost always on offense. And when he was taking moves, he would do the... he would react, but he would not sell, and he was never taken off his feet. With that, the finish.
Stallion runs wild, gets lariated.
Well, yeah.
You took all the steam off of me. Hey, gets
he
in,
ran
runs wild, and Nikita just ran him over.
He took Ivan down. He took Baron down. When he got to Nikita, he drop-kicked him back, and Nikita went back to the corner, which is the biggest beating Nikita took in the whole match. But then out of the corner, he came out with a clothesline and killed him. So it was highly entertaining to watch. It made everyone involved look like a star, and it made Nikita look like a fucking killer. No, this is great. This was tremendous. Shivani interviews Garvin.
Garvin called the heels who had injured his hand terrorists.
Yes, he said it was a terroristic act.
It was an act of terror. He talked about having to drive his truck with his bad hand because he's a working man.
So I've been working with his bad hand. I don't know if it's broken or not. Well, go get a check, dude.
Dude.
That's important.
He's driving a truck. He's not the champ. He doesn't make $500,000 a year. He's out there. He's a working man. He doesn't have time to go to the hospital. He's got to drive his goddamn truck and wrestle. Like a real working man, Vinny. Men don't go to the goddamn hospital. They don't take time off. They're not pussies.
So he was threatening that the Horseman's day would come and he had to watch their back anywhere, might be in the ring, out of the ring, maybe even in the shower. Lord, I hope not. I don't want to see that skit. And then they showed the angle. They had showed it a little bit at the beginning of the show where the Horseman jumped Garvin. Here they show the whole thing. The Horseman jumped Garvin, and then the key is they stretched his hand across the ring post and started whacking it with a cowboy boot. Ow. So Garvin ran his mouth for a while, and I got bored. And the other thing I want to mention here is that Garvin had a baseball hat on, only it was sitting above his head like it was too small to fit on his head, but it was way too big for him.
Well, you don't want to mess up his hair.
I'm not sure how this worked. It's very strange.
I'm sure it was a hat from his trucking company. Getting that plug in right there.
Might have been. Actually, it might have been. Do you actually have a trucking company? You talked about driving a truck.
Yeah, I presume it was a gimmick, but you wear the trucking company hat.
I see.
It's part of the gimmick. Because you want people to think this is real.
Yeah. The Road Warriors came out for a promo.
Paul Ellering and the Road Warriors here. Hawk is very mad because of something the Russians had done. And so, normally, Hawk comes out and he does wacky promos. But not today. Hawk felt like he was going to blow up. The last stinking straw.
I watched him turn red before my eyes.
The Road Warriors are hot.
Yeah. Them stinking Russians, he said repeatedly. He was very upset about what happened in Baltimore. I was a little confused because the angle they showed had been in Baltimore, and the revenge match would also be in Baltimore.
There was a lot of stuff happening in Baltimore.
Yes.
Back in the day.
So here's what happened. They showed the clips of this. and this made my heart melt. There's going to be a sixth man. The Russians, Ivan and Nikita and the Baron, against the Road Warriors and their manager, Paul Ellering. But Hawk couldn't make it, they said, because he'd been injured the night before.
Injured at the bar, I'm sure.
Probably. So Animal and Paul wrestled the Russians. I wrote 2-on-1. It was actually 2-on-3. So they're already down a man, and one of the men they do have is their manager. With that said, do you know how the Russians won?
Cheating.
Cheating.
Of course.
Even though they were up really 1.5 men, they still had to use a chain to win to pin the manager.
Yeah.
Heels used to be heels, goddammit. They could never cheat enough.
And then Ellering is talking about this horrible beating that he took, and he said, I had to go to the hospital where they stuck pins in my feet.
Yes.
What?
I assume he meant acupuncture.
He went to the hospital, and they performed acupuncture after he'd been hit with a chain?
I guess this is why Ronnie Garvin didn't bother going.
He went to the wrong goddamn hospital. Yeah, no wonder Ronnie didn't go. Don't want people sticking these goddamn pins in my hand.
So
What was he even talking about? I thought I'd heard wrong, but I hadn't.
No, that's what he said.
He said they took me to the hospital, and they stuck pins in my feet.
He said he had lost feeling in his legs. I guess that's how they test for feeling in your legs. They poke pins in your feet.
Well, lost feeling. So they're going to test by poking you with pins? Why don't they just touch your leg?
I don't know.
God damn it.
Where's
Where's Rachel Ellering's number? I'm going to call her and get her dad on the phone. Tell me about the time your dad was hospitalized, they put pins in his fucking feet.
So they're screaming about the Russians. They're screaming about Baltimore and revenge and all this. And also we have a match tomorrow night against the Midnight Express in Atlanta. We're going to win the tag titles. Multitasking. Wahoo
This was one of those rare times where the actual wrestlers talked rings around their manager.
Yeah.
Normally the manager's the good talker.
That's what the manager's there for.
These guys were just on fire, and then Ellering's just talking about pins in his goddamn feet.
Yeah. It was a great promo. I was watching this and thinking about the promos we've been watching on Raw 10 years later, and Hawk's talking about sweat socks and stuff. I thought, man.
Oh, God, the promo Hawk did like last week, he was talking about bullshit.
Yeah. Things change.
Well, usually the Road Warriors weren't mad because they just went into the ring and slaughtered some jobbers.
That's true.
This was a rare incident where they had trouble had happened, and so they needed some revenge.
Wahoo McDaniel versus Ron Rossi.
Tony made sure to throw in a plug for David Crockett by noting that Wahoo was the master of the chop.
So
he did not disappoint.
No, he chopped the guy.
He chopped him repeatedly.
There was one fan here who apparently didn't want to see anything but brawling on the floor. Throw him out of the ring. Throw him out of the ring, Chief. Finally, Wahoo.
Such great respect for Wahoo.
Finally, well, it was.
Calling him Chief.
So Wahoo threw the guy on the floor, and you could hear the fan go, "Yay!" And then Wahoo just stayed in the ring, and there was a pause, and the same fan, "Now go get him!"
His fan needed to be a manager.
Yeah.
Let me talk about the finish here.
Yes, please do.
Wahoo, after beating up Ron Rossi, who's just as revolting a human as you can see on this particular night, Wahoo throws him into the ropes, and as a tribute to the missing David Crockett, he does in fact chop the man. And then, when the man falls down, he drops an elbow on his face, and then puts his knee on his neck and pins him. This Wahoo, do not mess with Wahoo.
Well, no, that's a given. I've never seen an elbow drop like this.
He dropped his elbow on his face.
Imagine, everyone, like usually when you see a guy do an elbow drop, like his tricep is landing across the guy's chest. Wahoo stood over the guy. He lifted his arm in the air, and he dropped as fast as he could go the point of his elbow into the man's forehead. Ow! I don't know what this guy did, but don't do it again.
So maybe the last we ever see of Ron Rossi.
It might be. I'd retire. Magnum TA cut a promo. Talked about all the demands the Kremlin was making concerning the upcoming chain match with Nikita. This is where, granted, I realize the Ronnie Garvin Flair thing is going to go for a long time.
Now you know why that goddamn Berlin Wall fell. 1986, and all the Kremlin can think about is this fucking championship this Magnum's belt.
I feel like I have been watching Magnum and Nikita cut promos on each other for the entire length of the Cold War, and there's still no payoff in sight.
Dude, Flair and Garvin are a year and a half away from their goddamn
At least
match.
I know that's a year and a half. I guess I know that Magnum and Nikita do have a payoff before then, but...
And Magnum's not around much longer.
No. But at least Garvin and Flair will talk about other stuff. Flair will address Dusty or Ricky
Vinny,
Morton.
This is so much better than AJ Styles and Chris Jericho having 4 matches and a run as a tag team in the course of 2 months.
Word. You win. Jimmy Garvin versus Rocky Granodle.
The fan was the highlight of this match.
The fan yelling, he's going to get you, Garvin.
Talking about Wahoo.
He's coming after you, Garvin.
Dude, if Garvin hadn't been getting ready for this match, if he would have been watching the Wahoo match, he'd have left the territory.
Oh, yeah.
I would have.
I don't work with that guy. They did some fun grappling for a while.
Garvin did alert the fans that he was not afraid of no Indians.
Not afraid of no Indians. Once Garvin took over, it was just leg hold after leg hold. They went through a break. They came back. There was more leg holds. And then Granodle got a little offense, but Garvin cut him off and won with a brainbuster.
Fans doing these stereotypical Indian war cries.
Yeah. In support of the Indian.
Yeah.
Times change. Sadly, we know if Garvin's going to make one appearance on the show, he should be talking, not wrestling. Ric Flair cut a promo.
This is so amazing. A couple of weeks ago, he was talking about how he keeps talking about Ricky Morton and how all of Ricky's fans are in their training bras. Their training underwear.
Undergarments.
Undergarments, yeah. So he mentioned a couple of weeks ago that he doesn't like the little girls in their training undergarments. He wants the girls that fill out the sweaters.
Yeah.
So now this week, keep in mind that last week, or a couple of weeks ago, somebody had the line about, who was it that was talking about when your wife wakes up in some other man's bed or something like that? And they bleeped it off the show. This was too risque.
It was Jimmy Valiant.
Yeah, Jimmy Valiant. Too risque.
Yeah.
But Ric Flair this week, he decides, fuck it. So he flat out says that he loves women who are double Ds.
First he said,
Double Ds and empty heads.
yes, full sweaters and empty heads. He pauses, and then just to clarify, double Ds, you know?
And the funniest thing
Just in
is,
case we didn't get it.
he's talking about how the only thing he wants are women with giant boobs and no brains. And they keep cutting to these hot women in the crowd, and they're all so excited.
Like, that's me.
Hey,
check
out these tits,
I
Rick.
qualify. Then he talks about Morton, says last week or 2 weeks ago, whatever it was, we had the confrontation. Morton, you stepped on one of my 150 pairs of sunglasses.
I think he said $150 pair of sunglasses.
Or maybe he said that.
That was the most shocking part of the whole promo to me, that he claimed his sunglasses were only $150.
Blazer was only $800. Cheap week for the Flair.
He's slipping.
Regardless, now he said Morton was in trouble. Arn Anderson versus Sam Houston.
Flair on commentary.
Flair on
was
commentary.
Unbelievable.
Arn was unbelievable. He gave Houston everything for several minutes. Even when Houston tried his finisher, Arn avoided it. But the way he avoided it ended up biting him. Houston tries the bulldog. Arn's able to push him off, but he pushes him right into the corner, and Sam just runs up the ropes and hits a body press. Finally, Arn hits the spine buster, or he necks him on the ropes for the heat, and he hits a spine buster, which everyone knows is a devastating move.
Except Rick, who calls it a double inverted power slam.
Yes. Everyone learns something. So he's beating up this man, and then he distracts himself to talk to Ric Flair because he's a dumb heel. Only heels make this kind of mistake because wrestling made sense then. This allowed Sam to make his comeback, but Arn cut him off, and he won with a gourd buster.
Got to say that this Houston, I've been critical of Sam Houston, but he was a hell of a fiery babyface, and he took a flip bump off a shoulder tackle, which I couldn't even believe. And then later, they were doing a leapfrog spot, and he almost fell down, but he got up quick enough to still do the hip toss. And Arn never stopped running.
Oh, no.
Because Arn was like, you are going to get up, motherfucker, because if you don't, there's going to be hell to pay.
Yeah.
And sure enough, he got up.
So Arn gets the win. He cuts his promo. He says, Houston, you missed your one shot at greatness. When you fight a man like me, I've beaten Rhodes, I've beaten Magnum, I've beaten Wahoo, Manny Fernandez, the list goes on. Tully Blanchard and I, we're going to win the Crockett Cup. And then for the first time in months, people have actually been calling them the Three Horsemen lately. And he mentions Ole Anderson by name and vows that he'll be back. The Rock and Roll Express cut a promo. This was
Seriously, they both cut a promo.
hysterically. I don't know if it was bad. It was hysterical.
Robert Gibson.
He's got like 2 lines.
I'm not even sure he was awake. It's like they pulled the string on the back of him and he robotically uttered a couple of lines while staring vacantly in 2 directions.
Uttering is giving him way too much credit. He mumbled his way through 2 lines. That's all he had to do. So Ricky takes over. And he's a vastly superior promo. I realize this is breaking news. But he's going on and on about Ric Flair. He's looking right into the camera, looking right into the heart of the viewer at home, and he's calling out Flair over and over again. And occasionally, he will remember his buddy Rob is there and try to keep him relevant and say things. He'll point and say, Flair, I know you can't beat me. Or Robert. And when I get my hands on you, or Robert gets his hands on you, over and over.
And he called himself Rick Morton.
Rick Morton.
Not Ricky. There's a man's promo here.
So.
He's Rick Morton.
Yes. Would you like to talk about Shaska Whatley and the Barbarian versus
Boy, would I ever.
Vernon Deaton and Randy Mulkey?
So as Vinny noted, the match is Vernon Deaton and Randy Mulkey against the Ball Bearing and Shaska Whatley. The first time we've got a chance to see him since we've missed a couple of shows. Tony alerts us that fans have been writing letters and sending them through the U.S. mail asking what is going on with Shaska Whatley. And I thought, man, what a time we live in now, where all you have to do is go on Twitter and bitch, and at Frontier Corp will immediately tweet you back and try and solve your problem.
Woo.
Back then, you didn't have that opportunity. You had to get a goddamn piece of paper and a pen or a typewriter, and you had to write a letter, put it in an envelope, seal it up, get a stamp, and mail it. And you would not get a response. Fans have been writing letters about Shaska. The goddamn Mulkey was... Okay. Sometimes you see these jobbers, and you think, okay, maybe this guy made $25. He's got no money. He really does drive a truck. Cut the guy a little slack. This Mulkey is so frail, can't afford a gym membership. He's so goddamn pale because he can't afford to go tanning. But he fucking bleached his hair.
Gotta look like a star, brother.
Dude, I almost vomited.
Yeah, the Mulkeys were terrible.
Paul Jones, now a commandante, because he's a leader of an army now.
He's always been
led an army,
a
but
gentleman. I don't know what do you call his
now he
before.
feels like he really has an army. That's what he explained at the end of the show.
He said, "My army is full."
Yes.
We'll get the promo. The promo's later. We'll talk about the promo later.
Ball bearing with a face bite, which is a new one, and he just threw Deaton all over the place in the sloppiest manner possible. He did not care. He did not care if the man is the old. Oh, his old line. Kill them all, let God sort them out.
Yes.
That's not really what I'm looking for here. If he dies, he dies.
Yeah.
Who said that?
Ivan Drago in Rocky IV.
Okay, there we go. He was Ivan Drago here.
Yes.
He was throwing this guy around. It's the guy's responsibility to not die, not Barbarians.
No.
Barbarian's job is to throw you.
kill him.
Your job is to land.
Yeah.
That's what he did here. And then Shaska hit a flying headbutt and won. At first, I was so mad that we didn't get a promo with these guys afterwards because they go to the Russians. But
it was to come.
Yes.
It was worth the wait.
It was worth the wait.
Oh, it was worth the wait. I'm thinking about this now. This was about a year before I really started watching wrestling. And I didn't see much of Pez Whatley just because I was mainly a WWF fan, and I really only got 1 hour. I guess I got the Saturday night show and then another hour, like a syndicated Saturday night show. But the point is, I didn't see him very much. Most of my exposure to him was in Pro Wrestling Illustrated and magazines like that. I'm pretty sure that I thought Pez Whatley and Shaska Whatley were different people.
Oh, man.
So here's the big change.
Really? There were 2 Whatleys?
Why not? There were two Mulkeys.
They were brothers.
Maybe they were brothers. I don't know. So here is the difference between Pez and Shaska. He put on a tuxedo jacket, no shirt, just a tuxedo jacket, and a top hat.
Yeah.
And now he's Shaska.
Yeah.
Okay. And he did, in fact, win with a headbutt. And then
The hell more do you want, Vinny?
I have no idea.
Come on.
I don't know. He won with a headbutt and stood up and shook his ass. Koloff's got a promo. Ivan's going off about how they have the Warriors and Magnum TA right where they want them. They're angry and they're going to make a mistake. And we're going to hurt Ellering even more. And then Nikita speaks. And I think for every solid minute that Nikita Koloff speaks, I will understand one word.
I was going to say, I couldn't understand a word he said.
I have no idea what he was talking about.
I don't know if he was speaking Russian. I don't know if he was speaking English. He may have been speaking Japanese for all I know.
The Rock and Roll Express were set to wrestle Ray Traylor and Carl Styles. Before the match could start, out comes Ric Flair. And he's not in a suit. He is dressed to wrestle. Trunks, knee pads, boots, and wearing that big, gorgeous World Championship belt. And he says, I don't want to wait. I want Ricky Morton right now. So the Express dropkick the Geeks out of the ring. And Pee Wee Anderson takes the belt and he shrugs and he starts reffing the match. And so it's Ricky Morton versus Ric Flair. I just love saying that. Ricky Morton versus Ric Flair.
I hope they have this every week.
Oh.
So here's the story. Because every Ric Flair match you've ever seen, Flair gave him everything early. He would counter something and get foiled. Counter something and get foiled. Counter something and get foiled.
And every time he tries to think of something new.
Yep.
They tried basic pro wrestling stuff, headlocks and arm wringers. That didn't work. So he thought, okay, I'm going to go amateur on him. He tried to take him down, but Morton out-wrestled him. So Flair says, okay, I'm going to brawl. And he starts throwing punches, but Morton gets the better of that too. Everything Flair tries, he gets beaten.
Total sprint, back and forth, back and forth. Flair bails outside. Here's some of the... We could talk about all of the moves, but let's talk about what was so great about this match. The psychology was 1,000 times better because the whole thing began when Flair came out all loudmouth and cocky and challenging Ricky Morton. Normally, you would not have the heel come out and challenge the babyface. Like he's, Hunter coming out and challenging Roman Reigns because he's a tough guy. It works when the heel comes out and challenges the babyface and then totally gets his mouth shut, which is what happened here. Flair briefly got the heat, but only for a moment. Ricky's doing his comeback. The referee gets bumped. Flair immediately throws the guy over the top rope, which should be a DQ. Ricky gets a pinfall with a small package. He gets another pinfall. He does a high cross. Arn tries to run him off, but Robert comes in, tosses him out of the way, and Robert Gibson counts the pinfall as Ricky Morton pins Ric Flair. Now, a finish like this would normally be complete horseshit, but it was so great here because, number one, Flair had made the challenge, and he got his mouth shut by little Ricky Morton. Number two, the title wasn't on the line, so to the fans, this was a perfectly acceptable finish. Flair got his mouth shut, he got cradled, and Robert Gibson counted the pin. This was enough for the people. The people saw Ricky Morton pin Ric Flair. They know that Ricky Morton can beat Ric Flair. Now they can go all around the horn with this goddamn match, and everyone's going to pay to see them do the rematch, which Flair can win with his feet on the ropes or whatever. This was so fucking great.
Among the other great things.
And man, David Crockett.
And there was no David Crockett. As fine a job as Tony Schiavone did. If David Crockett had been there calling this match, there would still be parts of him floating in orbit around the Earth.
It would be legendary.
Yeah. So Gibson obviously was out there in Morton's corner, and very early on, Arn comes out in Flair's corner. And then they proceeded to do nothing but cheerlead. There was no interference. Even when the referee gets bumped. Obviously, if you've been watching wrestling for any length of time, if the referee goes down, usually some bullshit's about to happen. So the ref goes down, and the bullshit is Flair throws Morton over the top rope, which would be a DQ. He was either being a vicious asshole or deliberately trying to cost himself the match and save his title. Oh, I guess it was a non-title match, so it doesn't matter. He was just being a dick. But as they're brawling out there, they're literally brawling right in front of Arn Anderson, who just stands aside. Because even then, he wants his buddy Rick to have the chance to prove he's a better man like he thinks he is. He doesn't want to interfere for no reason. He wants his buddy Rick to get a chance to shine. So Flair gets pushed into the post. He's bleeding everywhere. And they gave Morton a few visual pins, a small package spot. I think it was a backslide in there. And finally Flair goes to the body press, and he hits it, except Morton rolls through and makes the cover. And now Arn interferes, because now he knows his buddy's in trouble. He knows his buddy may even be beat. And he hits the ring, and that's when Gibson drop kicks him, and Gibson counts the 3, and the party is on. This was a perfect pro wrestling match.
It was so awesome.
I'm going to go back and watch it again.
Oh, it was great. And man, I was like, up to this point, I was just thinking, the show's fine, but goddamn, it's boring. And then Ric Flair came out and saved the show. And by the time this was over, I was like, this is my favorite show of the week.
And
really, it sucked.
There are many times watching this show. The show, frankly, it can be a chore. It can be a bunch of squashes and promos.
It wasn't short till Flair came out.
And nothing newsworthy. And about every 2 or 3 weeks, something huge will happen. And this was huge.
Yeah, that's the way you got to do it. You know what this reminds me of so much is NXT.
Kind of.
Everybody loves NXT. Everybody raves about TakeOver. But honest to God, if you're honest, NXT can be very boring. It can be a very simple wrestling show where nothing happens. But every 3 or 4 weeks, you get a big match on there.
Yeah.
And they slowly build a TakeOver, which is usually always a blow-away event. And then you go back to television. We didn't even watch the show this week because we were told it was nothing but recaps and a match with Apollo Crews versus The Drifter. I didn't even bother watching it. But you know what? Everybody talks about what a great show it is.
So, Ricky Morton just completed what is quite possibly the biggest win of his career. And he goes to get a promo when who shows up to steal the spotlight but Dusty Rhodes?
God, can you imagine?
Just sapping all the heat off this moment. Says, Flair, every time you face a man like me or Ronnie Garvin or Ricky Morton, you end up flat in your ass. I'm going to beat you for the title in New Orleans. He did leave, and Morton did get a chance to say that he had proven he could beat Flair. He'd do it again someday and be world champion.
It is so amazing to go back and watch this. And you remember in the 80s when everybody just, like all the hardcore fans, just hated Dusty. And now he's a legend.
Yes.
Now, all of the youngsters today, all the NXT, Dusty's like the great legend. But man, you go back and watch his stuff in the 80s, and it's something to see. Stealing the spotlight, shows about him every single time. It's ironic, actually. Reminds me of some other people that we see in WWE. Who, things just growing up today, are going to see these people as legends. You know the legend that Hunter's going to be someday?
Oh, man.
All these youngsters
nothing
growing
you've
up.
ever seen before.
Oh, man.
What comes around goes around, man. Things go in circles. I remember watching some old Portland stuff with Buddy Wayne, and it was an angle where Buddy Rose turned heel. And he destroys the guy and leaves him laying. Crowd is losing their minds, can't stand this. And Buddy Rose is cutting this promo, and I forget who it was, but one of the other heels on the show says up to say, "Oh man, that was great. I'm so proud of you. You're one of us now." And it's clearly not planned or scripted. The guy just went into business for himself. And Buddy Rose just looks at him and says, "I'm on my own." He wanted no part of that. Anyway. Jim Cornette did a quick promo. He was claiming to be incognito. His disguise consisted of dark sunglasses. Midnight Express versus Paul Garner and Bob Owens. The highlight of this match was when the announcers wished a happy 56th anniversary to Louie and Bertha Rainwater.
Louie and Bertha Rainwater.
I love...
This was a standby match, as they call it.
It was. I love it. It's not the 50th anniversary or the 60th, 56th.
Well, every one over 50 is something to celebrate.
Hey.
For a lot of reasons.
I'm almost at 2, so I shouldn't make fun.
Louie and Bertha Rainwater.
Yes. The Express beat Garner in like a minute with the double goozle.
Bertha Rainwater.
Not a wrestler.
No.
A fan of the fighting Rainwaters. And then we got the real main event.
Do you remember when you hated number one Paul Jones?
I do.
Thank God you've apologized.
I was wrong. I have seen the error of my ways.
He's amazing.
So Paul Jones is out there with the Barbarian and Shaska Whatley. And he says, my army is complete. Here are 2/3 of my army. Shaska Whatley and the Barbarian. And then the third showed up by the end. It was Baron von Raschke. That's his army, his complete army. So he's running his mouth for a while, and then Shaska says, I got a surprise for Jimmy Valiant. He pulls out a paper bag. See if I can find the surprise. It's in here somewhere. Oh, look, here it is. And he pulls out a clip of Jimmy Valiant's hair that he cut off. And the Barbarian's doing the finger cut motion like Brutus Beefcake. And Shaska's laughing about Jimmy Valiant. Says he's going to shave him, keep cutting his hair till he's shaved bald. And they're going on, and they're ranting about Jimmy Valiant, and they're ranting about the fans, and the fans are idiots and fools, and they're talking over each other, so it was kind of hard to pick up at first, but we went back to check, and this part is true. As Tony is wrapping up the show, literally the last thing either of them says is, Jones points to a section of the fans, and he says, and this is a quote, it's those colored people right there.
That's what he said.
And that's how the show went off the air.
That's when the director said, cut it.
Cut immediately.
Yeah, we actually rewound it to make sure that we thought...
I must have made a mistake. That can't be what he said.
Yeah.
He's standing next to Shaska Whatley, who got angry when another man called him the best black athlete in the world.
Yeah.
I'd watch my language around him if I was Paul Jones.
Welcome to 1986, everybody.
Things change. So everyone go watch that Flair Morton segment immediately.
Unbelievable match. Saved the show. Between that and the Paul Jones Army, this was a perfect television show.
Just all in the last 35 minutes or so.